Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I decided not to upload the ABCs of Makeup Part 2. Instead, that will be coming next week. I thought it was more important to do a reaction video to Nikkie Tutorials coming out as transgender, what that means for the community, and also just generally discussing what you can do if you are wanting to come out as trans or non-binary, whether you have already transitioned or whether you're wanting to take those first steps. So stay tuned, we're going to do a Get Ready With Me Essentials Guide to Trans Stuff now. Okay, so let's talk. So I've always admired Nikkie. I've always thought that she was an amazing makeup artist. I always thought she was an amazing woman. She seems to keep her private life private, which I've always respected, because, you know, not everybody wants to be a celebrity. Just because you're on YouTube, you don't necessarily want your, you know, entire life blasted to the press, or blasted to whoever wants to watch. So I've always respected that about Nikkie. And so yeah, so Nikkie Tutorials is transgender, which is a surprise, I guess. Like most people, it wasn't something I was aware of. It wasn't something that I was ever had ever thought about Nikkie. I take people very much on face value. I don't judge people's gender history or anything. I don't assume anything about anybody. I try not to, at least. So Nikkie was being blackmailed, which I think is despicable, absolutely despicable. I think it's a vile, vile, vile thing. And I also believe very firmly that it took away, or the blackmailer was trying to take away Nikkie's power, which is disgusting, absolutely disgusting. Do I think it makes a difference? Lots of people online seem to be saying that the only reason she said anything now is because of the blackmail, which is true. But again, there seems to be a double standard going on, where people are saying that she should have said this earlier, and that, oh well, you know, you only said this because you were being blackmailed. Of course she only said this because she was being blackmailed, because this isn't anybody else's business. At the end of the day, Nikkie is Nikkie. She's an amazing woman. Her past is just that, and if she doesn't choose to share that, then so be it. Her channel isn't about gender or sexuality or about politics or identity. Her channel is about makeup. And so at the end of the day, if she is an amazing makeup artist and you've been following her for many years, watching her makeup tutorials, then so be it. Nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed is now you know a little more about her personal private life. Nothing else has changed. So I think it's disgusting that she was blackmailed into this. I really do. And for a lot of people saying online, you know, it's 2020, why are people still caring about these things? People do care about these things. I receive hate on pretty much a daily basis for being openly trans. So for what some of you might not know, yes, I do. I've just started this channel, but my main thing that I do with my other half is we run a trans and non-binary support organisation, and for us, you know, we are helping some of our service users deal with all sorts of issues, from, you know, doctors being horrendously crap and not wanting to help treat trans patients, through to family members disowning them, through to homelessness, joblessness. You know, there's an awful lot of stuff that the community goes through, because the reality is it's really harsh out there for trans people. You know, and for, I'm just trying to get my face done as well. But it is really harsh for some people. You know, I had 8 teeth knocked out in a transphobic incident, in a hate crime, and it was horrendous, and that was 5 years ago, and that stays with me. You know, that has affected me, and that will continue to affect me. And I know lots of people in the community that have had similar incidences. You know, not everybody's that unlucky, but it is a reality. There is a few things I want to talk about. I've seen an awful lot of people saying that Nikkie was lying. I'm not going to go into naming names, but we all know a certain ex a member of a large makeup company who apparently has now been fired. Her IG details, which were disgusting. You know, she accuses Nikkie of lying about who she is. Not saying you are transgender isn't lying. Not revealing something about you isn't lying. And not everybody has to know every single thing about you. And so for those of you saying that Nikkie was lying, she wasn't lying. She just chose not to tell you something deeply personal about herself. That isn't lying. That is literally her defending herself and keeping something private that she chooses to keep private. I am sure that everybody watching this has things that they would rather keep to themselves, whether that be issues they're going through, whether that be their past, whether that be parts of their body they're uncomfortable with. We've all got it. We don't automatically open up about everything to everyone because of ignorance and because of bigotry and because of those attitudes. There's also something else I want to talk about, which is quite problematic. And it's a lot of people are posting things which I'm sure they mean well. And that is all those people that are saying, oh, I could never tell. Oh, Nikkie, you could never tell that you were trans. Oh, look, you could never tell. As if being visibly trans is a bad thing. Now, this is something I take umbrage with, and isn't just because of the fact that at 6'2", which is the same height as Nikkie, you know, but at 6'2" and being this build, I visibly stand out. But this idea that for trans people we should somehow aim to look like a cisgender person, so that I should aim to look like a cis woman, but I should somehow, you know, go through an awful lot of steps to try and mimic the appearance of a cis woman. I mean, there are so many problems with these statements that people are making, well-meaning statements, because it's basically saying that, again, there are only certain ways to look like a woman or a man, and that if you are a trans woman and you are broader like myself, or you are taller, or you have a deeper voice, then you are somehow, you know, you are somehow less than a cisgender woman. And I think this idea that only beautiful trans women are accepted, well, again, it's problematic. So I'm just going to set my face before everything dries down. Largely though, the response, certainly online, has been massively positive, and that's something which I think has taken Nikkie by surprise, certainly from some of the things she's been tweeting, and certainly it's taken me by surprise. Normally the amount of hate that openly trans people get is ridiculously disgusting, to be honest, and it is virulent. The anti-trans community is disgusting and vile, and they will not stop until they seriously hurt people and cause people a lot of harm. But largely online, the response to Nikkie has been absolutely massively positive, and I think partly that's because of her, because Nikkie is, you know, sort of largely universally liked. Yes, there are some issues that she's had and some scandals and things a little bit in the past, but largely Nikkie is one of those people who keeps herself to herself and does her beauty thing and doesn't get involved in the beauty guru drama, and I think that she's respected for that. And so I think largely the fact that she's now come out, her followers, her fans, you know, they respect Nikkie for who she is, and the fact that she's trans is just another part of her life that she's revealing. I do think it's really interesting that Nikkie was able to transition at a young age, and I think that is an absolute testament to the argument that you should allow trans kids to transition. You should allow trans kids to be themselves, socially and eventually medically. And I think that holding that child back is disastrous for all involved. The suicide rates for transgender kids are ridiculously high. They are so scarily high. And that figure drops remarkably. It's something like 41% and it drops to 4% when that child is supported. So you are literally looking at, you are 10 times more likely to have a gravestone to put flowers on if you don't support your trans kid. 10 times more likely. So what would you rather do as a parent? I don't know. It is vital that trans kids are supported. Here in the UK there is a charity called Mermaids which do phenomenal work, and they help families where a child is expressing gender diversity, and they help those families. There is a limited children's gender service here in the UK, but it is ridiculously hard to get a child onto hormone blockers. It is ridiculously hard, and hormone blockers don't change somebody's gender, they don't change the sex characteristics of a human body, they just delay puberty, and that is something which gives everybody a chance to pause. As Nikkie Tutorials said, she would have been a lot taller if it wasn't for those blockers, if it wasn't for that treatment, and her life would have been markedly different if she wasn't able to have that support. In the UK, as I say, Mermaids does a phenomenal job. Please look at their website. I'm going to put all the links down below. But we also know that for an awful lot of people, they go into their teens and into their 20s and even 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, knowing that they're trans but never having had that support. And again, I will put some links of some organisations down below. Nikkie was very, very fortunate in that she was able to transition. I'm going to carry on with my ads. Nikkie was able to transition at a young age. And that's given her, a body that she's comfortable in, which is phenomenal. I had to wait until I was in my late 30s to start this process, and for me it was a difficult time. There have been an awful lot of issues that I faced in my life that meant that I couldn't transition earlier for various reasons. I actually was, I'm going to swap to a different blending brush, I actually was at the gender services a good few years before now. And when I was there before, the gender service was a slightly different beast to what it is now, and the psychiatrist, the gender specialist, basically said that at 6'2", why was I bothering to transition when I would never appear to be female, which broke me and made me leave the gender service for nearly 10 years, and for 10 years I barely existed. It caused all sorts of issues for me personally. It caused, well, I can't even go into the mental health anguish that it caused me. It was very, very tough for a very long time until I found the courage to come back to the gender service and say, actually, do you know what? I can be a trans woman, and being a trans woman is no less than being a cis woman. And I think this is something that I really want to explain. A lot of people are kind of, they like to put people into brackets and categories, which is fine, I understand that. But a lot of people are also, they have this sort of hierarchy, and it's something within the trans community ourselves, I see it a lot, where a lot of people don't want to be trans. They think that being trans is somehow shameful. For me personally, I mean, you can't quite see it, but this t-shirt actually says, proud to be trans. It's part of my identity. Once I was able to grasp that actually, do you know what? Trans itself is a modifier. This is the technical term for the word, okay? So what this does is it modifies the word after it. So in the same way, it gives you a little bit more context into the person that you're talking about. So I am a woman. I am a trans woman. You could take out that modifier of trans and place in instead, I am a white woman. You could take that one out and put in, I am a British woman. You could take that one out. It makes no difference to the womanhood The only thing it changes is a little bit of information and context around the type of woman, or the type of person that we're talking about. So it's a modifier. So a cis woman is somebody who isn't trans. It's somebody who was assigned female at birth, is largely comfortable with their genitalia being a vagina and a vulva, and goes through their life identifying as female. So for that person, cis is just a modifier. It just basically says that that person isn't trans. For some people, they choose not to identify as that modifier. So for me, let me just say, I am a trans woman. However, I'm also a Doctor Who fan. I'm also the mother of fur babies, as you can hear. At the end of the day, there are lots of things about me, and my trans identity is just part of that. And I think that that's something that's really important. It's not everything I am. Yes, it's a large part of what I do because of what I do. However, it's not the be-all and end-all. There was a lot about me that isn't just trans. And I hopefully, Nikkie will also be able to carry on just being Nikkie without being trans Nikkie, if that makes sense. Apologies, this video is probably jumping around a little bit all over the place, because there's so many things that I actually want to talk about in relation to this. There's so much to unpick in terms of what is happening in the wider trans community. We live in a world currently where Donald Trump has rolled back trans rights in the States to the extent that somebody who is trans having a heart attack, turning up at a hospital with a heart attack, the paramedic team are now legally able to say they don't want to treat that person just because they're trans. GPs are able to refuse treatment. Employers are able to sack somebody just because they're trans. That's whether they've come out, whether they're being outed, or whether it's somebody that's wanting to transition on the job. The situation in the States at the moment is horrific, but even that situation is still better than in Southern America, where you've got one of the highest murder rates of trans people. Every year there is something called TDOR, which is the Trans Day of Remembrance, and it's on November the 20th. And basically what TDOR is the community come together and we mourn those killed by transphobia. So we mourn the murder victims that were murdered just for being trans. Can you imagine if that was any other community? Could you imagine having a day dedicated to mourning the people that you have lost in your community over the past 12 months? That's shocking. And that's where the trans community is. And across the world, trans rights are not just under attack. Trans rights are very vulnerable, which means trans people are very vulnerable. So Nikkie is incredibly lucky and as am I, to live in a country where we have certain rights. So in this situation, Nikkie was forced out of the closet because she was being blackmailed. But the decision on whether or not to disclose trans status is a subject which people get very hot under the collar about. But to be honest with you, the decision should be yours. So for me, living my life publicly, and for me living my life openly as a transgender woman, that's my decision to make. It's not for anybody else to out me, it's not for anybody else to discuss that. For Nikkie being forced out of the closet, I think is disgusting. Will it do things to help other trans people? Yes. Will Nikkie being a visible out trans woman make a difference? Yes. Will it have an effect on her viewers in a positive way? Absolutely yes. There will be trans people watching that will now have hope because Nikkie is out and openly publicly trans. There will be people who will see her story and will feel that now there is hope for them. There is a possibility for them to live their truth, their authentic lives as trans people, and that is amazing. And personally, I mean, we made a decision, both myself and my other half, that pretty much we live open lives. And what we've been able to do with that, by living openly, is to show other people that, you know, you can be transgender and be in a relationship. You can be trans and go to Asda and buy a pint of milk. You know, you can live a normal life, whatever normal is, as a trans person, and that it doesn't have to be a big deal. Yes, it will make a massive impact, Nikkie coming out, and hopefully it will show other trans folk and other YouTubers and other closeted people in general. Don't worry, I'll just put that on my cheek and I will get rid of that in a minute. But it will show people that, you know, there is hope. Nikkie, if you're watching this, more power to you. You know, you have literally taken back your strength. You've taken back your power. And to be honest with you, you know, your platform, you will make such a difference, and you already have made such a difference. But just being who you are, just being open, makes a difference and shows people that there is a future. So if you are wanting to come out, and you are wanting to take those first steps to transition, maybe, or maybe you transitioned a long time ago and you're wanting to live openly, know that there are support groups out there, there are places you can go to for support, there are people you can contact. Do please Google it, do please get support, find out who the local LGBT friendly folks are and speak to them, find out where the trans groups are, speak to them, join them, become part of the community if it's right and safe for you to do so.
Yes.
So to Nikkie, I say thank you for sharing your story. It will empower people the world over, and it will make a massive difference. And I am amazed by the amount of love that you have been shown. To everybody else that's watching this, thank you so much for bearing with me. It's probably going to be a bit choppy on the edit because it's taken a lot longer to film than I was anticipating. Also, this was supposed to be the Essentials Guide to the Makeup Glossary Part 2, and yeah, that will be coming next Wednesday now. Thank you very much for watching this. Do please leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and well, it seems quite apt that we normally end the videos this way, but I will take a little tip from Nikkie on this. So as I always say, stay you, stay authentic. It's not as well manicured as Nikkie's, but fuck the haters. Bye bye.